This is the second video to help applied physics students to write product or system design-based final year project reports. In this video, we will look at the structure of the reports. It is important to note that your department may have specific conventions for research papers, and your lecturer might specify the sections you need to include in your report. The sections of a report that we shall consider are abstract, introduction, methodology, results and a discussion, conclusion, references, and finally appendices. Your title is also important. A title should communicate the main focus of your report. Titles are usually noun phrases, not sentences or questions. Your title should be concise. It should catch the reader's attention and be clear and interesting for expert and non-specialist readers. You can revise it after your report is finished. Now we will look at the abstract. The abstract provides a short summary of the content of your research paper and hopefully makes the reader want to read further. Because it's a summary of the whole report, it is usually written last. It should focus on your research process and your findings, and convey the most essential information about your report. It should be clear and concise, and in general, not include specialist terminology. Abstracts can be a single paragraph, or include subsections that parallel the outline of the report. You should check with your tutor to see which format you are required to follow. Typical sections are 1. Background, including information about the product or system being developed and objective of the research. This should only be about 1 to 2 sentences. 2. Design, outlining product or system development process and evaluation procedures in 2 to 3 sentences. 3. Results and evaluation of the findings, summarizing main findings and observations in less than 10 sentences. 4. Conclusion, summarizing the major outcomes in 1 sentence. Now we will move on to the introduction. The introduction has a key role in providing a background for the research. You should revisit it after the report is complete and to ensure it is relevant to the rest of the work in terms of logic, content, and flow. The main contents of the introduction are 1. Information about the background and motivations, including the importance and necessity of the product or system or technology being designed. 2. Definitions of technical terms and specialist terminology used in the paper. 3. A clear distinction between what is assumed, that means previous research, existing theory or product features, and what will be demonstrated, for example, the features of the new product, system or technology. 4. The objectives of the study and the processes undertaken or procedures adopted to achieve those objectives. 5. The expected practical or commercial applications of the product. And finally, 6. An overview of the report, identifying the sections of the report and what they will cover. Now we will consider the literature review. This may be a separate section or be included in the introduction. In it, you should outline relevant research to provide background information for your own research topic. In a product or system-based final year project report, you should outline the basic properties of materials used and the basic mechanism of the product or system and the fundamental design principles used. The next section is methodology. The methodology section focuses on product design and development. You should describe the structure and the components of the product or system design and implementation of that design. Also, give the equations and formulae used, and the methods of analysis and evaluation. Make sure that you provide sufficient detail for anyone interested in your study to replicate it. If your research is aimed at modifying aspects of an existing product or system, the details you provide should enable your reader to determine how your product or system improves on and overcomes the limitations of the existing product or system. The results and discussion is an important section. It is therefore recommended that you consult your supervisor to determine departmental conventions about the format. The section explains the results obtained for each stage of the product development process and how they contribute towards achieving the objectives stipulated in your introduction. Product and system design final year project reports usually present and explain results obtained together and rarely have separate results and discussion sections. It is important to present your results clearly and logically. You should use appropriate section headings which are linked to the objectives of the research to create a logically organized and coherent report showing how processes adopted fulfill the objectives of the research. Use appropriate data representation techniques, for example, box plots, graphs, tables, and so on to present your key results. You should provide a brief textual description or caption for each data set presented. As you develop your discussion, emphasize any particularly interesting or important aspects of your findings. Briefly outline the implications of the findings. Remember, unexpected findings are important as well, and they can make your chapter more interesting. You should only focus on your own results. Do not make any statements that cannot be substantiated by results from your research. Finally, outline the limitations of your research and, if possible, point out how the limitations could have affected any results. The strength of your conclusion, the next section, will depend on how the discussion is developed. If each subsection in the discussion clearly develops one main aspect, it makes it easier for you to extract these points and form your conclusion. Now we come to the conclusion. In the conclusion, you show how the different themes of your research are connected, but emphasize the main themes. You should start by referring to the main objective of your research as stated in the introduction. Then, summarize the procedures you adopted followed by the main outcomes. Show how the outcomes have achieved your objectives. You should avoid repeating the points mentioned in the analysis and discussion sections in the same language. They can be summarized but not repeated in full. Finally, state any possible limitations of your research and then outline the practical implications of your product or system. That completes the main body of your report. It is followed by the list of references. Make sure that you follow the required citation format according to your departmental recommendations, and ensure that your in-text and end-of-text entries match exactly. Appendices are for supplementary material that your reader will find useful to understand the development of your project. If you have large amounts of raw data, put them in the appendices. Give the appendices informative titles so that it is clear what is in them. You should refer the reader to the relevant appendices in the text of your report. This completes the video on the sections of your final year project report.